Hello and welcome to a new edition of True Audio Files. So today I want to cover sealed records in general. Kind of the good, the bad, the ugly, if you will, and my take on buying them, things on that nature. What kind of started this was as I saw someone post on a social media page their YouTube video about not keeping records sealed. And I won't go into too many details because I don't like disparaging others, but I didn't agree with pretty much anything that he said on the video. But that being said, I decided I wanted to kind of make my own video and kind of give you my take on sealed in general. And what I mean by that is it's several layers. One is buying records and just not opening them for whatever reason. Maybe you're collecting. Like I know a lot of people buy 2 copies of the one steps that are out there by MoFi or any of those higher end audiophile releases. They'll buy one and they will keep one. They'll buy 2, play one, keep one sealed for whatever reason. I've heard several. One is if something happens to that record, I have one as a backup. I've heard other people, which I think are a little bit more honest about it, saying that they keep it, and if the value goes way up, they sell it so they can buy more records with it. Whatever the case may be, so they have a lot of different reasons for it. I have some, admittedly, that I still have that are sealed. In most of my cases, they're not audiophile releases, but just stuff I've purchased, and I just, for about a 2 or 3 year time period, I was just buying so much music I couldn't keep up with the listening to all the stuff I was buying. I was buying so much because I was going on monthly business trips, and I'd come home with 20, 30 records, and then I would buy some new releases that I also maybe bought the high resolution digital version of, or the CD version of, or whatever. So I would not necessarily need to listen to the record, although I still want to. So I've got a bunch of those. So that's a vast majority of the reason why I have sealed records. Or why I still have sealed records. So then there's the other side of this, which kind of goes back to what I was talking about with the people with the MoFi one steps, where they will buy one to play and buy one to keep for damaged record or to resell. I personally am very leery of buying sealed records for several reasons. And the biggest reason being that I have found in most cases is my past experience with buying sealed records is I've gotten at least 2 or 3 of them that were sealed that were warped, and I actually more than that, but 2 or 3 of them that were warped in so bad of a way that they actually were not even playable. They would just skip, and tried to flatten them, and it's almost impossible to get a warped record flattened to a point where it's playable like it's brand new, unfortunately. So there's that big part of it, which you just simply don't know. There was another instance where I bought a record of it was a Harry Belafonte at Carnegie Hall, I think it was. Yeah. And based on looking at the record, it was virtually impossible to tell how old the record was. I mean, we knew or had a very good idea that it was probably at the newest, maybe a 70s pressing, but it could have been an earlier first pressing. It was not really distinguishable by the cover. So one thing I did as a deal with the owner of the record store that had it was I told him I was going to buy it, but I really wanted to see what I was going to open it, but I wanted to see what version it was, and if it was a newer pressing like a 70s or maybe even an early 80s, I wasn't going to pay as much as it would have been valued at if it was like a 60s. But if it was a 60s copy, I would pay more, and he luckily agreed to that. And I say luckily because when I opened it, it was definitely probably a 70s pressing of it. It was a pretty high, pretty new for what it was pressing. So I was able to get a better deal on it, thankfully. But I just have had too many issues with sealed copies, and I have had the occasional ones that had some marks on them and scuffs and things like that. Nothing that was so bad that it wasn't playable, but definitely bad enough to where if I was actually looking at it and it was open, I may not have purchased it. So that's why I always like, if I'm going to buy old records, I want to make sure they're open so I can take a look at the condition of them first. So that's kind of my take on that. I'm kind of curious as to what your thoughts are. Do you like to buy sealed records, or do you keep sealed records around to resell or to play later? I mean, it's kind of a tough situation to keep a record sealed for purposes of anything but to resell it, in my opinion. And even reselling it gets dicey because then you get the person that opens it and says, hey, there's a defect on it. And even though it's not your fault, some of the places like eBay will go side with the buyer and force you to make them return it, or let them return it, or things like that. So it's kind of tough. But you definitely make more money on a record if it's sealed, if you're trying to sell it, than you do on something that's open, even if it's a near mint one, which in my mind blows me away, because I would much rather buy a near mint used copy than a sealed copy of that same record, of that same pressing. So anyway, that's kind of my take. I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on sealed records, both storing them and keeping them, or reselling them, or buying them. Please make some comments below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Those comments really help, and I really enjoy responding to them and reading them. If you liked what you see here, please hit that like button. If you want to see more of my videos, hit that subscribe button, and then also hit that alert bell to let you know when my new videos come out. I also am available on social media, both on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of the links are listed below for you, so you can click on them and go to those pages and join me on those platforms. So that's really everything I've got for today. I hope you have a great week and a great day, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks a lot.